Hello friends, today's topic is about ODC and hemoglobin. ODC means oxygen dissociation curve. Simply, oxygen is taken by the hemoglobin, so it is called oxyhemoglobin and it occurs at the lung level. While at the tissue level, same hemoglobin that will release the oxygen and convert it into the deoxyhemoglobin. So that dissociation of oxygen and that is represented by the curve and so many factors which are affecting this oxygen dissociation curve that we will look in this video, and that will give idea how exactly hemoglobin is working inside our body. So hemoglobin and oxygen dissociation curve. Here that four different graphs are shown, but particularly first how this oxygen dissociation curve is working, that we will look, or basic definition of ODC. Then we will look about the normal sigmoidal curve of the ODC, means oxygen dissociation curve. So here there is a theoretical curve of this ODC, means oxygen dissociation curve. Here over one side, over the x-axis, there is a partial pressure of oxygen in mm of Hg, while over the y-axis there is a percentage of the saturation of the hemoglobin. So here first curve, that is blue color, that is showing a theoretical curve, that is also sigmoidal, but actually it is not same as a theoretical, that is somewhat different in actual inside our body or physiological. So that normal physiological curve, that is also a sigmoidal and it is called a Hill effect. So in detail of the Hill effect, or another way it is called positive cooperativity or Heme-Heme interaction, that also we will look in this video. Other thing which are discussed in this video are the Bohr effect, which is affected by the pH and partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So Bohr effect as well as chloride shift, which is called a Hamburger effect, as well as effect of temperature and effect of 2,3 bisphosphoglycerate, that also we will discuss in relation to this oxygen dissociation curve. So we have said that first curve, that is theoretical curve of this oxygen dissociation curve, second that is normal sigmoidal curve of this oxygen dissociation curve, and next black color, that is showing that effect of the Bohr effect or effect of the 2,3 bisphosphoglycerate. Now lastly, that red color line, that is indicating effect of temperature for this oxygen dissociation curve. So basically this oxygen transportation by hemoglobin that can be affected by this pH, carbon dioxide, that is called a Bohr effect, as well as 2,3 bisphosphoglycerate and temperature. Now what are the significance of these each factor that we will discuss. But before that, first definition of this ODC, that is oxygen transportation by hemoglobin at physiological partial pressure of oxygen, is graphed as a ODC, or that is simply called a oxygen dissociation curve. So exactly at the lung level or pulmonary alveoli level, the hemoglobin is 97% saturated, means hemoglobin is mostly saturated with the oxygen. Now further you have to remember, normally in our body there is a 15 gram of hemoglobin is present. Now each gram of hemoglobin per deciliter of our blood, that can carry 1.34 ml of the oxygen. So there is a 15 gram of hemoglobin per deciliter, so 15 into 1.34, that is about 20 ml of oxygen per 100 ml of blood that can be transported. So that sometime can be asked, 1 gram of hemoglobin transport how much oxygen, that you have to remember 1.34. Normally 20 ml of oxygen is present per deciliter of the blood or per deciliter. So in the tissue capillaries where the partial pressure of oxygen is only 40 mm of Hg, so theoretically hemoglobin saturation will be 75%. So at the lung level 97% saturation, while at the tissue capillary 75%. So difference of 22% is there. So under normal temperature and pressure condition, only 22% of oxygen is liberated. But actually what happened physiologically, or actually at the tissue capillary level, hemoglobin is 60% saturated. So from 97 it is 60%. So around 40% of oxygen is released. So not 22%, not a theoretical, but actually 40% of oxygen is released. So further in detail of partial pressure of oxygen, you have to remember partial pressure of oxygen at the inspired air, that is 158 mm of Hg, while at the alveolar air level, that is 100 mm of Hg, while at the lung level the partial pressure of oxygen, that is 90 mm of Hg, while finally at the capillary bed, that is 40 mm of Hg, partial pressure of oxygen is observed. So in tissue oxygen is liberated from the hemoglobin. So in lung capillary, oxygen is taken up by the hemoglobin and this oxygen is liberated at the tissue level, and that is making oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin. And for the formation of oxy to deoxyhemoglobin, again from deoxy to hemoglobin for oxyhemoglobin formation, so many factors are there and that all can affect this oxygen dissociation curve. So which are the factors that can affect ODC? That is hemoglobin itself, because hemoglobin is the main molecule for the oxygen dissociation curve. Second factors are the pH, partial pressure of carbon dioxide, as well as temperature and bisphosphoglycerate or 2,3 BPG. So one by one, first one, that is Heme-Heme interaction and co-operativity. So sigmoidal shape of oxygen dissociation curve is basically due to the allosteric effect or co-operativity, and that is called a positive co-operativity. Simply we have said that oxygen is transported by the hemoglobin. One hemoglobin contains 4 heme residue. Each heme residue will take one oxygen molecule. So every time oxygen is added over the heme residue, there is a more affinity of hemoglobin for the oxygen. So each addition of oxygen increase the affinity of hemoglobin for the oxygen. So basically initially it is T form or taut form or tight form, and once that oxygen is added, it is converted into the R form or the relaxed form of the hemoglobin, which is called oxyhemoglobin. So oxyhemoglobin, that is R form, and deoxyhemoglobin, that is the T form, that you have to keep in mind. So which are the conformational changes are occurring? So initially when it is deoxyhemoglobin, it is mostly in the form of 2 alpha and 2 beta chain, but when getting the oxygen, it is converted into the oxyhemoglobin and converted into the 2 identical dimer, means 2 alpha beta type of chain is there, means 1 alpha 1 beta combine 1 unit, and second alpha beta, that is identical dimer, is formed over this oxyhemoglobin. Basically this oxyhemoglobin is more soluble. Now further in detail, to understand this ODC, oxygen dissociation curve, we have to understand effect of pH and partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So simple, what happen when partial pressure of carbon dioxide is increased, simultaneously hydrogen ion concentration is increased, and due to high H plus concentration, pH will be towards acidic side. H plus increase means acidity is increased, so basically pH will be towards lower side, so pH will be decreased at acidic side. So at the tissue level, what happens, there is a metabolic reaction will occur, and after metabolic reaction carbon dioxide is generated, and this carbon dioxide will increase, so that partial pressure of carbon dioxide will be increased, so that will lead to the decrease in the pH or acidity will be increased, and that is due to the metabolic reaction and like formation of the lactate and other important metabolite. So all these lead to the affinity of hemoglobin for the oxygen will be decreased. So you have to remember, when partial pressure of carbon dioxide is increased and acidity is decreased, or pH acidity is increased means pH is falling down, so that will lead to the acidity, and that all together lead to the liberation of oxygen from the hemoglobin. So that will lead to the shifting of ODC to the right side, means when oxygen dissociation curve shift to the right side, that will liberate more oxygen. So oxygen is released to the tissue level. So when oxygen is released, then what happens, this relaxed form of the oxygen, relaxed form of the hemoglobin, that is called the oxyhemoglobin. That oxyhemoglobin now convert into the deoxyhemoglobin or taut form of the hemoglobin. So R to T change that will take place over the hemoglobin. So again that T form of the hemoglobin, that will shift back to the lung. So in the lung, the opposite reaction will occur, where the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low and pH will be higher. Again that partial pressure of oxygen is elevated, so that high oxygen pressure, that will lead to the binding of oxygen to the hemoglobin, and again that oxygen dissociation curve will be shifted to the left side. So initially, which is sigmoid curve, that will be shifted to the right side when it is reached at the tissue level. Again that deoxyhemoglobin, when reached at the lung level, this ODC will shift again to the left side. So that again T form, that is taut form of the hemoglobin, that will be reconverted into the R, means relaxed form of the hemoglobin. So that is called again oxyhemoglobin. So Bohr effect is nothing but the influence of this pH and partial pressure of carbon dioxide to facilitate oxygenation of hemoglobin at the lung level, and deoxygenation of this hemoglobin at the tissue level is known as a Bohr effect. So Bohr effect, that is explained in 1904. So this particular effect is called a Bohr effect, is nothing but a pH and carbon dioxide effect over the oxygenation and deoxygenation of the hemoglobin. So simply what we have said, at the tissue level, binding of carbon dioxide forces to release of oxygen, and this high carbon dioxide will favors the formation of more carbonic acid. So basically this carbonic acid that will liberating more H plus, and that will lead to the falling of the pH or acidity is generated. So intracellular pH will be fall, and the affinity of hemoglobin for the oxygen will be decreased, and this oxygen is ultimately released or unloaded to the tissue, and that is simply called a Bohr effect. Previously we have seen that when one oxygen is attached, second oxygen is attached, so all over affinity of the hemoglobin towards the oxygen is increased, and that is called Hill effect. Next effect of pH and carbon dioxide, that is called a Bohr effect. Now one more effect in relation to this oxygen transportation, you have to remember chloride shift. It is not directly affecting oxygen dissociation curve, but it is related to this particular transportation of oxygen or particularly carbon dioxide. So further, bicarbonate that is diffused out of the red blood cell into the plasma to maintain electrical neutrality. So basically bicarbonate is generated from the carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is the main responsible for the release of oxygen at the tissue level. So at the tissue level, HCO3 minus is generated inside the RBC, and that will go back into the plasma, and that is one of the effect for the regulation of acid base also. So when this HCO3 will go outside of the red blood cell, chloride will enter inside the red blood cell to maintain the electrical neutrality, and this is called a chloride shift, or another name that is Hamburger effect. So you have to remember Hill effect, that is Heme-Heme interaction. Second, that is Bohr effect, that is related to the carbon dioxide and pH for the oxygenation and deoxygenation, and this chloride shift, that is called a Hamburger effect, because sometimes this name of particular effect is asked or it is written in a MCQ. So you have to remember Hill effect, that is Heme-Heme interaction, Bohr effect, that is effect of pH and carbon dioxide, and Hamburger effect, that is nothing but a chloride shift. So thus on venous side, when RBC are slightly bulged due to higher chloride shifting inside the red blood cell, as more and more chloride go inside the red blood cell, these red blood cell are bulged. Further, when this blood reaches the lung, so this deoxyhemoglobin that will be again get the oxygen, so reverse effect will take place, and for that release of the carbon dioxide, the reverse chloride shift will be occur. So that in detail already we have discussed in acid base disorder. So particularly you have to remember chloride shift. So this chloride shift is also related with the transportation of carbon dioxide and oxygen release in relation to the oxygen dissociation curve. Now one more factor, that is temperature. So you have to remember that metabolic demand of oxygen is decreased when there is a relative hypothermia or decreased temperature, that will lead to the decreased requirement of the oxygen. So that will lead to the shift of oxygen dissociation curve towards the left side. So ODC is shifted to the left side at low temperature and result in a release of less number of oxygen to the tissue. So hemoglobin oxygen is remain bind over the hemoglobin, and ODC will shift towards the left side. So that is occurring mostly in a hypothermia. While oppositely what happen, suppose patient have a fever or febrile condition. During that time there is an increased demand of the oxygen for the tissue, and that will be met by the shifting of oxygen dissociation curve to the right side. So more and more oxygen is released from the hemoglobin, and that will shift ODC to the right side. So right side shifting is seen in a fever or febrile condition, while in hypothermia it will shift to the left hand side. So one more terminology related to the temperature effect over the ODC, that is P50, which means the oxygen partial pressure of oxygen at which hemoglobin is half saturated. So P50 means 50% saturation of the hemoglobin. So P50 of a normal hemoglobin at 37 degrees centigrade is 26 mm of Hg. So elevation of temperature from 20 to 37 degree cause 88% increase in partial pressure of, or this pressure of the 50. So P50 is increased with the elevation of temperature. Simply for the ODC you have to remember hypothermia will shift ODC to the left hand side, means decrease release of the oxygen from the hemoglobin as less requirement, but in febrile condition ODC will shifting to the right, more oxygen is released from the hemoglobin. So that simple thing related to the effect of temperature that you have to remember. Now one more important factor, that is 2,3-BPG, means 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. It is one of the regulator molecule for this oxygen dissociation curve. Normally level, that is 15 plus or minus 1.5 milligram per gram of the hemoglobin. But this 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate is concentration is higher in the young children compared to the elderly, because as a more oxygen is needed for the young child and more requirement over the young children. So that 2,3-BPG which is produced from the glycolytic pathway. So in glycolysis there is a 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, one intermediate molecule is generated, and from that 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate is generated. So that is also called Rapaport effect. So Rapaport effect, that is also helping for the formation of this more 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So you have to remember that effect of this 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. It is also called as sometimes shunt pathway. So Rapaport Libring cycle, that is basically targeted to providing more and more 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Its level is also increased in a high altitude. So that in detail we will discuss later on. At present you have to remember it is produced from the glycolytic pathway. So when the T form, so basically 2,3-BPG that is bind to the deoxyhemoglobin and stabilize the T form. So there is a T form will remain stabilized inside the blood. So to make this hemoglobin stabilize in this T form, this 2,3-BPG is very helpful. So when this T form revert to the R formation, this 2,3-BPG is released from the hemoglobin. So simultaneously when there is a need to release more oxygen, this 2,3-BPG level is increased in the blood. So simply you have to remember this 2,3-BPG is targeted to release more oxygen from the hemoglobin. So high oxygen affinity of fetal blood is due to the inability of gamma chain to bind 2,3-BPG. So basically fetal hemoglobin which is containing gamma chain or gamma globin chain which have no interaction with the particular 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate will not affect or interact with the fetal hemoglobin, and that is providing more oxygen to the fetus. So that is the main effect of the 2,3-BPG and main function of the fetal hemoglobin also. So ODC in general you have to remember basically a sigmoidal shape, and when it is shifting to the left side and when it is shifting to the right side, that is frequently asked in exam and viva. So simply as a summary you can remember that when 2,3-BPG is increased, that will lead to the more release of the oxygen. Same way partial pressure of carbon dioxide is increased at the tissue level, simultaneously decrease in pH means acidity is increased. Same way temperature is increased, that all will lead to the shifting of ODC to the right side. So shifting of ODC is right side means all over decrease oxygen affinity, and that decrease oxygen affinity will helpful to release of more oxygen. Further, this decreased level of carbon dioxide, increase pH at the lung level, and temperature, this also decrease ODC shifting to the left side and more oxygen affinity and more binding of oxygen to the hemoglobin. So shifting of ODC to the left side, that is showing more oxygen affinity of the hemoglobin. So that's simple about the oxygen dissociation curve. You have to remember it in relation to 2,3-BPG, carbon dioxide, pH and temperature. So that's all about the ODC and hemoglobin.